Tell you, the temperature is just fantastic. This has been the mildest August I can imagine in Missouri. Typically, I don't trust the Farmer's Almanac. Just a wives' tales type of publication. For those that don't know what it is, from what I've read from it, it's just they predict the weather patterns for the future. And this year they said it's going to be extremely cold and snowy. Well, I might have to believe them this year. This has just been an incredible August. We should be in the 90s this time of year. And they're talking about being in the 70s, I think next week. So it's going to be downright cold at night. So I can live with this. This is pretty comfortable. So I've been talking about SHTF, stuff that hits the fan, and the differences between preppers slash stockpilers and off-gridders slash self-sustaining. And also the other thing I've been doing is I've been taking these daily polls on my channel, voting polls. And if you're not familiar with that, you can go to my channel and you go over to community tab. There's a bunch of tabs at the top. You can get like videos and just different tabs, and one says community. Scroll down, you'll see all the questions I asked with a poll you can click. Well, I learned a lot from these about my audience and what they are interested in. And that's one of the reasons I've been kind of focused on this SHTF thing and the differences between preppers. I don't know, one poll I said, which is better, off-grid living slash self-sustaining or prepping slash stockpiling, and overwhelmingly like 94% said off-grid living is better. So at least I know I'm on the right path. When you get a poll that's that solid, you know that folks are trusting what you're saying. And then I did another poll that said, do you raise your own meat? And 84% said no, they don't raise their own meat. And then I did another poll where I asked, do you think SHTF is going to happen within your lifetime? And something like 77% said yes, they think it's going to happen. So that's interesting. 77% think it's going to happen, but 84% I don't think are ready. Then I asked another question and said, how long can you live without electricity? And I gave a list of dates, 2 weeks, a month, a year, 2 more years. And then I said forever. And only 54% said forever. So I find it interesting that so few people are ready for SHTF, even though by a wide margin, most people think it's going to happen. Now, one thing is that I kind of considered asking the question, can you raise a garden to self-sustain? And I thought, no, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to trick you into a question. It is my firm belief that raising a garden is not going to be enough food for you. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, my neighbor, it seemed like he had it was actually my friend's, I was a little kid, my friend's grandpa had this huge garden. I mean, it was massive. I can't even explain how big it was. It might have been as big as my property here. And they'd go out there every day and pick their vegetables and can their vegetables and do whatever it is they did. My grandparents, although didn't have a garden quite as big, had a pretty big garden. So I think a lot of people think, well, I don't need to raise meat because I can raise a garden. I don't think you could raise a garden big enough to sustain you. Whereas you can do pretty good with meat. You can get a lot more calories from meat than you can vegetables. And vegetables, in my mind, are just not as healthy for you. So first of all, eating a pound of chicken gives you 1,000 calories. Whereas if you ate a pound of cucumbers, just using that as an example, you're actually losing calories because it takes more calories to burn the cucumber, to eat the cucumber, to process the cucumber, than what the cucumber has in it. Carolyn and I, that's all we eat is meat. So I'm trying to really encourage folks to really pay attention to what they're saying. I get the feeling that when I say things like, can you live without electric? You get people to say, oh yeah, I'll just go over to the gas station and get gas. Well, how are you gonna get the gas? There's no electric. So today I thought I'd kind of focus a little bit on kind of like a question and answer or this or that video. I should have said that in the beginning of the video. In my videos, I've been talking about this SHTF and the differences between preppers and off-gridders, and now I'm pretty sure my audience is pretty solid in my corner that living off-grid is a better idea for SHTF. But you get those critics who just know everything. It's either they haven't been paying attention, and I know people are going to say, oh, don't listen to the trolls. But I don't think these people are trolls. I think they honestly believe what they're saying. I think it actually causes them not to proceed because they got this belief and they're like, well, I can't do it. Just ain't going to work. And so they don't. So I was talking about firewood. I got 15 years worth of firewood. And I got another, I think 30 years of firewood on the property if I had to use it. Now right now what we do is we go find free firewood. You can find firewood on this free stuff app. You go to Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist and everybody's giving away firewood. Now you have to go over there and cut it up in pieces, put it in your truck. It's a lot of work still, but it's saving these trees. So there's 30 years of firewood on an acre and a half. If I can live 30 years off this, imagine what you could do with a bigger piece of property. My grandparents only had 5 acres and they heated with 5 acres for, well, Dad said this morning, 30 years. For a good sized house, I think it was 3-bedroom house. But one person said, well, if everybody's using firewood, there won't be any trees left. Well, first of all, trees do regrow. I mean, nature's just crazy like that. It just allows things to grow. The thing is if we're talking about SHTF, there are going to be a lot of people that don't make it. They're just not going to make it. Because first of all, they're prepping. I mean, the preppers are going to be, you're going to have the people who do not believe that anything bad is going to happen. They'll be wiped out first. Then you're going to have the preppers. They'll be wiped out next because they're going to run out of their food. So stockpile 1 year's worth of food at least. Well, okay, then after a year, after the first group of people die off, then you're going to have the second group of people die off after that year. And so then it's just me and the folks who think like me. So no, you're not going to wipe out the woods. But if you are worried about it, then you need to downsize your life. I live in a tiny house. I use 3 truckloads of firewood per year. That is basically 3 trees is what it is. Well, you can see right here, I got 2 twins. Twin there, twin there. That's over a year's worth of firewood right there. So, and that's because I live in a small house. I put in maybe 3 logs every 8 hours. That's just a minute amount. And then the heat from the coals lasts, several hours. Then another person said, well, what are you going to do when they steal all your firewood? I get that question a lot. This is just a crazy question to me. People are so paranoid about the looters and the robbers and I mean, think about this. SHTF or not, people are going to back up into the front of my house, start loading their truck up with firewood, and I'm going to sit there and look at them like, oh man, look at that, they're going to steal my firewood. I mean, really, think about it. That's just, why would I stand there and tolerate them stealing my firewood? It's going to take them some time to steal it, but let's just assume for a minute that they're able to steal a truckload worth of firewood. Okay, that's only 1/3 of my winter. I still got 2/3 that I can go out of my 15 years worth of firewood. But isn't it more logical that I'm going to do something about it? Shoot their tires out, confront them, whatever it's going to take to get them to stop stealing my firewood might be the better option than to just stand there and look at them like, oh, I guess you're going to take it. I don't know where these people come up with these crazy ideas, but they consistently do. And then I was talking about propane. Now, I got to admit, I'm not an expert on propane, but I feel like I know a lot about it. I've had to deal with it quite a bit in the last few years. First of all, my dad is a propane guy. He does propane training. Well, right before he retired, he just recently retired. He ran a propane station thing. He was going to go get a job where he delivered propane and did all that. I mean, he was a regular Hank Hill. You remember that cartoon, Hank Hill? I sell propane accessories. This morning I get this reply. I was talking about propane in a previous video that we're going to save back as much propane as we can if SHTF were to happen because we have to use it for our canner. Now I realize some canners you can put on a fire, but our canners you can't. You can't put them on a fire. Can't get over 12,000 BTUs. We would have to have propane for pressure canning, not water bathing. We could water bath tomatoes, but pressure canning we would have to have propane for. Somebody replied, you can't store propane, it goes bad and it'll produce a sludge, and they explained how this happened to their RV. Well, I knew that was wrong. And the first reason I know it's wrong was they store it now. When they make propane, propane is a byproduct from diesel and gasoline. When they make propane, they put it in these caves or tunnels or someplace, and they store it there. And then when they sell it, they just ship it across wherever. So propane has an indefinite storage life. It doesn't go bad. You can Google it. How long does propane last? The downside to propane is the container itself. So the can, the bottle that comes in, will degrade. But it takes 30 years for it to degrade. That makes me 80 years old. I don't think I gotta really worry about propane going bad. And then it's just the canister went bad. So he was saying the sludge came out and ruined his RV. Well, if it was 30 years old, I'll go along with that. But even at that, so your canister went bad and you got sludge at the bottom of the tank. Don't tip your tank upside down and you won't have a problem. The sludge is heavier than the gas. The gas is going to come out without the sludge. It's gas. It's not a liquid. I suspect he had some other issues with his RV other than the propane. If he'd have said water got in there or anything, I'd have been more apt to believe it. So these are the things that people come up with to say that you can't do it. Well, you can make excuses all you want, but some 77% of you feel like the world is kind of coming to an end. So if you'll click that super thanks button down there, I'd really appreciate it. So I hope I can inspire you to get ready for what you believe in so you can live your dreams. Thanks for watching.